The stars glittered like tiny diamonds scattered across the endless black canvas of space. Outpost Vega floated silently in the void, a lonely speck of human ingenuity surrounded by an asteroid field that seemed to stretch forever. It was not glamorous work, maintaining an outpost on the edge of explored space, but someone had to do it. Ethan Cole didn't mind. He liked the quiet, the solitude, and the way the hum of machinery filled the silence. To him, this place felt almost peaceful. Ethan was an engineer, though he wasn't one of those flashy types you saw in holovids or read about in news feeds. No, he was just a regular guy with grease-stained hands and a knack for fixing things most people would throw away. His shift ended hours ago, but he stayed behind in the engineering bay, tinkering with a malfunctioning sensor array. Something about the readings bothered him. They were faint, almost imperceptible, but they pulsed, rhythmically, like a heartbeat hiding beneath layers of static. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered to himself. The sensors were designed to detect anomalies in the surrounding asteroids, mostly to avoid collisions or mining accidents. But these readings weren't natural. They weren't random bursts of energy either. Whatever they were deliberate. Curiosity tugged at him like a child pulling on its parent's sleeve. Ignoring the late hour, Ethan grabbed his toolkit and headed for the airlock. If he wanted answers, he'd have to go straight to the source. The small maintenance pod docked nearby wasn't much more than a tin can with thrusters, but it would get him close enough to investigate. As he climbed inside and powered up the engines, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into something bigger than himself. The journey through the asteroid field was slow and nerve-wracking. Gigantic rocks loomed around him, their jagged surfaces reflecting faint light from a distant star. Every so often his instruments would ping with another anomaly, guiding him deeper into the maze. Finally, after what felt like hours, he arrived at the source. A massive asteroid with a smooth metallic surface that looked completely out of place among the rough, pockmarked rocks surrounding it. Ethan maneuvered the pod closer, his heart pounding as he examined the strange object. There were no visible seams or markings, just a perfect silver oval that seemed to shimmer faintly under the dim light. Whatever it wasn't natural. And then he noticed something even stranger. A faint vibration coming from the asteroid itself, like it was alive. He reached out with a scanning device attached to the pod, trying to gather more data when, suddenly the reading spiked off the charts. Before he could react, the asteroid split open with a deafening roar. A blinding flash of light erupted from within, forcing Ethan to shield his eyes. When the glare faded, he stared in disbelief at what lay before him. Inside the asteroid was a chamber, and in the center of the chamber stood a towering structure, a weapon unlike anything he'd ever seen. Its design was alien, all sharp angles and glowing circuits pulsating with energy that made his skin crawl. Ethan's mind raced. Who built this? How long had it been here? And why? Before he could process any of it, alarms began blaring in his helmet. The outpost comms channel crackled to life, panicked voices shouting over one another. "We're under attack," someone screamed. "Repeat, we are under attack." Panic surged through Ethan. He turned the pod around and punched the throttle, racing back toward Outpost Vega. By the time he reached the docking bay, chaos had already taken hold. Explosions rocked the station, sending debris spiraling into space. Emergency lights flashed red, casting eerie shadows on the walls. People ran in every direction, some trying to fight back, others desperately searching for escape pods. Ethan stumbled out of the pod, still clutching the data pad containing the scans of the weapon. He needed to find someone, anyone, who could help him figure out what was happening. That's when he spotted her, Maya Rivera, a pilot who occasionally stopped by the outpost to resupply. She was crouched behind a console, firing a plasma pistol at unseen enemies outside the viewport. "Maya!" Ethan shouted, ducking beside her. "What's going on?" She spared him a quick glance before returning fire. "Don't know, don't care, just trying to stay alive." "We need to leave," Ethan said urgently. "I found something big. We have to tell Earth." Maya hesitated, her eyes narrowing. "You're telling me you've got intel worth risking our necks for?" "Yes," Ethan replied without hesitation. "It's a weapon, Alien tech. It might be why they're attacking us. Maya let out a low whistle. All right, genius. Let's hope your hunch is right, because if it isn't, we're dead meat. She gestured toward her ship, the stellar dagger docked nearby. Move fast, I'll cover you. Together they sprinted across the shattered remains of the outpost, dodging falling debris and enemy fire. Maya's aim was deadly accurate, picking off attackers with precision while Ethan focused on staying upright. When they finally reached the stellar dagger, Maya practically shoved Ethan aboard before climbing into the cockpit herself. Strap in, she ordered, flipping switches and punching coordinates into the nav computer. And start talking. What exactly did you find? Ethan handed her the data pad, explaining everything as the ship roared to life. Maya listened intently, her expression unreadable. Outside, the outpost continued to crumble, consumed by flames and explosions. Neither of them looked back as the stellar dagger broke free of the wreckage and soared into the safety of open space. For now, they were safe. But Ethan knew their problems were far from over. Whoever or whatever had attacked Outpost Vega wouldn't stop there. They were hunting something, and Ethan had a sinking feeling that the weapon he'd discovered was at the center of it all. As the stars streaked past the viewport, he couldn't help but wonder, had he just unleashed something far more dangerous than he could imagine? Or had he stumbled upon humanity's only chance for survival? The galaxy was vast, beautiful, and terrifyingly unpredictable. And somewhere out there, forces beyond comprehension were gathering, ready to reshape the future, for better or worse. The stellar dagger hummed softly as it cut through the endless void of space. Inside the cramped cockpit, Ethan Cole stared at the data pad in his hands, scrolling through the scans he'd taken of the alien weapon. The glowing lines and strange symbols on the screen made little sense to him, but one thing was clear: it wasn't natural. This was technology far beyond anything humanity had ever created, and if the attackers who destroyed Outpost Vega were after it, then it was worth something big. Maya Rivera glanced at him from the pilot's seat, her dark eyes sharp and focused. She didn't say much after they escaped the outpost, but the tension in her jaw told Ethan she was thinking hard. Finally, she broke the silence. So, genius, she said, her tone teasing but not unkind. What exactly do we do with this thing? I mean, assuming you're right and it's some kind of superweapon, how does that help us? Ethan frowned, rubbing the back of his neck. I don't know yet, he admitted. But Earth needs to see this. If those aliens are willing to destroy an entire outpost just to get their hands on it, then it's important. Maybe even dangerous. Maya raised an eyebrow. Dangerous is putting it lightly. You realize whoever attacked us isn't just going to let us waltz into Earth's orbit without a fight, right? They'll be hunting us. I know, Ethan said quietly. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. But what choice do we have? We can't run forever. Besides, maybe Earth already knows about them. Maybe they've been preparing for something like this. Maya snorted. Yeah, sure. Because Earth always has everything under control. She adjusted the controls, steering the ship onto a course toward the nearest relay station, where they could send a secure message to Earth Defense Command. Let's hope your hunch pays off, Ethan, because if it doesn't, we're screwed. Hours passed in tense silence as the stellar dagger sped across the galaxy. Maya kept watch over the sensors, scanning for any signs of pursuit, while Ethan pored over the datapad, trying to make sense of the alien tech. Every now and then he would mutter something under his breath, a theory, a question, or just frustration. Maya mostly ignored him, though occasionally she'd throw out a sarcastic comment to lighten the mood. You know, she said once, leaning back in her seat, if this whole saving humanity thing doesn't work out, you could always start a career in puzzle solving. You seem pretty good at staring at screens and looking confused. Ethan managed. A weak smile. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind. Despite her jokes, Maya couldn't deny the weight of their situation. They were two people, one an engineer, the other a pilot, carrying information that could change the fate of the galaxy. It was daunting, overwhelming even. But deep down she felt a flicker of excitement too. For years she'd flown cargo routes and taken odd jobs, never really feeling like she belonged anywhere. Now, for better or worse, she was part of something bigger. When they finally reached the relay station, Maya docked the stellar dagger and led Ethan inside. The station was small and mostly automated, its only occupants being a pair of maintenance drones buzzing quietly in the corners. Maya accessed the communication terminal and entered the secure channel for Earth Defense Command. After a few moments of static, a gruff voice crackled through the speakers. "This is General Carter Hayes of Earth Defense Command. Identify yourselves." Maya stepped forward, speaking clearly into the microphone. "Sir, this is Pilot Maya Rivera. I'm accompanied by Engineer Ethan Cole. We have critical intel regarding an attack on Outpost Vega and potentially hostile alien activity, requesting immediate audience." There was a pause, followed by a heavy sigh. "Understood. Transmit. Air coordinates. A retrieval team will rendezvous with you within 24 hours. Stay put and avoid engaging hostiles at all costs." "Roger that," Maya replied before cutting the connection. She turned to Ethan, crossing her arms. "Well, that went better than expected." Ethan nodded, though his expression remained grim. 24 hours is a long time. What if they find us first?" "They won't," Maya said firmly. "Not if I have anything to say about it." As night fell, or rather, as the station's artificial lights dimmed to simulate nighttime, the two of them settled in to wait. Maya checked the ship's weapon systems, making sure they were ready in case of trouble, while Ethan continued studying the datapad. He was determined to learn as much as he could before meeting with Earth's military leaders. Whatever this weapon was, understanding it might give humanity an edge. At one point, Maya brought over a couple of ration packs and handed one to Ethan. "Dinner's served," she said dryly, sitting down beside him. "Not exactly 5-star cuisine, but it gets the job done." Ethan chuckled, tearing open the package. "Thanks, I guess this is luxury compared to what we had at the outpost." They ate in companionable silence, the quiet broken only by the occasional beep of the station systems. When they finished, Maya stood up and stretched. "Get some rest," she told Ethan. "You look like you haven't slept in days." "What, about you?" he asked. "I'll take first watch," she replied. "Someone's got to keep an eye out for bogeys." Ethan hesitated, but eventually nodded. "All right. Wake me if anything happens." He lay down on a makeshift cot in the corner, closing his eyes despite the nagging worry in the back of his mind. Sleep came slowly, fitful and restless, filled with dreams of explosions and glowing alien machines. But eventually, exhaustion won out, and he drifted off. It was Maya's sharp intake of breath that woke him hours later. He bolted upright, heart racing, and saw her standing near the viewport gazing out at the stars. Her face was pale, her knuckles white as she gripped the console. "What is it?" Ethan asked, scrambling to his feet. "We've got company," Maya said tightly. Outside, 3 sleek alien ships emerged from the darkness, their shapes jagged and menacing. They moved with predatory grace, surrounding the station like wolves circling prey. Ethan's stomach sank. "Are they Conquered Alliance?" "I don't know," Maya muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. "But they're definitely not here to chat." She activated the station's defenses, a handful of turrets designed to deter pirates, and fired a warning shot. The aliens responded immediately, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that shook the station violently. "Damn it," Maya cursed, ducking as sparks flew from the console. "We need to get out of here." Ethan grabbed the data pad and stuffed it into his pocket. "To the ship." They sprinted back to the stellar dagger, dodging falling debris and bursts of plasma. Maya climbed into the cockpit and powered up the engines while Ethan strapped himself in. The alien ships closed in, firing relentlessly as the stellar dagger disengaged from the docking bay. Maya pulled the throttle back, sending the ship hurtling into space. "Hold on," she shouted, weaving between asteroid clusters and narrow gaps in the field. Behind them, the alien ships gave chase, their weapons blazing. Explosions lit up the darkness as chunks of rock exploded around them. Ethan clung to his seat, his knuckles white. "Can we lose them?" "We'll have to," Maya replied grimly. She banked sharply to the left, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Then, spotting an opening in the asteroid field, she pushed the engines to full throttle. The stellar dagger shot forward, leaving the alien ship struggling to keep up in the treacherous terrain. After several tense minutes, the pursuing vessels disappeared from view, unable to navigate the dense asteroids. Maya let out a shaky breath, slowing the ship down slightly. "That should buy us some time," she said, wiping sweat from her forehead. Ethan exhaled deeply, his body trembling with adrenaline. "Good flying." "Don't thank me yet," Maya said, glancing at the nav screen. "We still have 12 hours until the rendezvous. And trust me, those bastards aren't giving up that easily." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The enormity of their situation settled over them like a heavy blanket. They were fugitives now, hunted by forces they barely understood. But they also carried hope, a fragile, flickering light in the vast darkness of space. And as the stellar dagger continued its journey toward Earth, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that their discovery would change everything, for humanity, for the galaxy, and perhaps for themselves. The stellar dagger drifted silently through the cold emptiness of space, its engines humming softly as it approached Earth's orbit. Ethan Cole sat in the passenger seat, clutching the datapad tightly in his hands. He hadn't stopped thinking about the alien weapon since they'd escaped the asteroid field. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the glowing circuits and sharp angles of the machine, pulsating with an energy that felt almost alive. It was dangerous. He knew that much. But it was also humanity's best chance, maybe their only chance, to fight back against whatever force had attacked Outpost Vega. Maya Rivera piloted the ship with practiced ease, her focus unwavering as she guided them toward the designated rendezvous point. She glanced at Ethan occasionally, noticing the deep lines of worry etched into his face. "You're overthinking again," she said finally, breaking the silence. "Whatever happens next, we'll deal with it. One step at a time." Ethan forced a smile but didn't reply. He wanted to believe her, to feel reassured, but doubt gnawed at him. What if Earth's leaders dismissed his discovery? What if they thought he was crazy or worse, a threat? And even if they believed him, how could humanity possibly stand against an enemy that had already proven itself ruthless and organized? Their thoughts were interrupted by a sudden transmission crackling over the comms system. "Unidentified. Vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Maya leaned forward, pressing the comm button. "This is Pilot Maya Rivera, accompanied by Engineer Ethan Cole. We have critical intel regarding recent attacks on human outposts. Requesting clearance for landing." There was a brief pause before the voice responded. "Acknowledged. Stand by for escort." Moments later, 2 sleek fighter ships appeared on either side of the stellar dagger, their markings clearly identifying them as part of Earth's military fleet. Ethan watched as they moved in perfect formation, guiding the smaller craft toward a massive orbital station. The sight filled him with both awe and unease. Humanity's defenses were impressive, but would they be enough? When they docked at the orbital station, a team of armed soldiers greeted them. Ethan and Maya stepped off the ship cautiously, raising their hands as instructed. A stern-looking officer approached, scanning them with a handheld device before nodding to his men. "Clear," he barked. "Follow me." They were led through a series of secure corridors until they reached a large briefing room. Inside, a group of high-ranking officials waited, their expressions unreadable. At the head of the table stood General Carter Hayes, a tall man with graying hair and piercing blue eyes. His uniform was immaculate, every medal perfectly aligned. He gestured for Ethan and Maya to sit. "Start talking," Hayes said without preamble, his voice low and commanding. "What exactly do you think you found?" Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of everyone's gaze on him. He placed the datapad on the table and activated the display. The scans of the alien weapon flickered to life, filling the screen with glowing symbols and complex diagrams. "This," Ethan began, pointing to the image, "is what I discovered inside. An asteroid near Outpost Vega. It's some kind of weapon, alien technology far beyond anything we've encountered before. Whoever built it intended it to be used against us. Hayes studied the scans carefully, his brow furrowing. "And you're sure about this?" "Yes, sir," Ethan replied firmly. "The attackers who destroyed the outpost, they were after this. They knew it was there. If they hadn't shown up when they did, I might not have realized how important it is." One of the other officers, a woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense demeanor, leaned forward. "Assuming this is real, and assuming it works, why would they leave it behind? Why not take it themselves?" "That's the thing," Ethan explained. "It wasn't operational, at least not yet. Maybe they couldn't figure out how to activate it, or maybe they didn't want to risk using it too soon. Either way, it's still there, waiting." Hayes exchanged glances with the others before turning back to Ethan. "Even if what you're saying is true, how does this help us? Do you have any idea how to use it?" Ethan hesitated. "Not fully, but I've been studying the scans. There are patterns, repeating sequences that suggest a control mechanism. With enough time and resources, I think I can decipher it." The room fell silent as the officials considered his words. Finally, Hayes nodded slowly. "All right, you'll get your chance. But understand this. If you're wrong, the consequences will be severe. Humanity is already stretched thin defending our colonies. We can't afford distractions." "I understand, sir," Ethan said, relief washing over him. "I won't let you down." After the meeting, Ethan and Maya were escorted to a lab where a team of scientists and engineers awaited them. The room was filled with advanced equipment, holographic displays, quantum processors, and rows of blinking monitors. For the first time since leaving Outpost Vega, Ethan felt a spark of hope. This was his element, his domain. Here, surrounded by tools and minds capable of unraveling mysteries, he believed they could make progress. Maya lingered nearby, watching as Ethan dove into his work. She didn't fully understand the technical jargon being thrown around, but she recognized determination when she saw it. Despite everything they'd been through, Ethan seemed more focused than ever. It was inspiring and a little intimidating. Hours passed in a blur of calculations and simulations. Ethan barely noticed the passage of time, his mind consumed by the task at hand. Slowly but surely, pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The weapon's design was unlike anything human engineers had created, relying on principles of physics that bordered on theoretical. Yet there was a logic to it, a rhythm that hinted at its purpose. By the end of the day, Ethan had made significant progress. He identified key components of the weapon's activation sequence and proposed a method for integrating it with human technology. The scientists were skeptical but intrigued, peppering him with questions and offering suggestions. Maya watched from the sidelines, quietly impressed by how quickly Ethan adapted to working with such brilliant minds. As the team wrapped up for the night, one of the lead scientists approached Ethan. "You've done good work today," the man said, clapping him on the shoulder. "But don't burn yourself out, we need you sharp." Ethan nodded, though he doubted sleep would come easily. His thoughts were racing, spinning with possibilities and potential outcomes. If they could unlock the weapon's secrets, humanity might gain the upper hand in this war. But failure wasn't an option, not when so much was at stake. Later, that evening, Maya joined Ethan in the mess hall, sliding a tray of food across the table. "Eat something," she ordered, sitting down opposite him. "You look like you're about to collapse." Ethan smiled faintly, picking at the food half-heartedly. "Thanks, I'm fine, really." "You're not fooling anyone," Maya said, bluntly. "You've been running on fumes since we left the outpost. Even geniuses need rest." He sighed, setting down his fork. "I know, it's just hard to stop. Every second counts, you know? If we waste time, people die." Maya studied him for a moment, her expression softening. "I get it. Trust me, I do. But pushing yourself too hard isn't going to help anyone. Take it from someone who spent years dodging trouble. You can't win every battle alone." Her words struck a chord, reminding Ethan that he wasn't carrying this burden by himself. Maya had risked her life to help him escape, and now an entire team of experts was working alongside him. For the first time in days, he allowed himself to relax, if only slightly. "All right," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Maybe I'll try to get some sleep tonight. That's the spirit," Maya teased, flashing him a grin. "Who knows? Tomorrow might bring better news." Little did they know, tomorrow would bring challenges neither of them could have anticipated. As they parted ways for the night, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of dangers. But somewhere amidst the chaos, humanity's resilience burned brightly, a beacon of hope in the darkness. And as long as people like Ethan and Maya kept fighting, that light would never fade. The next morning brought a flurry of activity to the orbital station. Ethan woke up groggy but determined, his mind still buzzing with ideas from the night before. He grabbed a quick breakfast in the mess hall and headed straight to the lab, where the team was already hard at work. Maya joined him shortly after, bringing coffee for both of them. She had a knack for knowing when someone needed a boost. "Morning," she said, handing him a steaming cup. "Ready to save the galaxy?" Ethan chuckled dryly, taking a sip. "One step at a time." Inside the lab, the atmosphere was electric. Scientists moved between stations, running tests and analyzing data. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing complex schematics of the alien weapon. Ethan took his place at the central console, reviewing the progress made overnight. The activation sequence he'd identified was promising, but there were gaps, missing pieces that kept the weapon dormant. As the hours passed, Ethan worked tirelessly, collaborating with the team to fill those gaps. They tested theories, ran simulations, and debated possibilities. It was slow, painstaking work, but each breakthrough brought them closer to understanding the weapon's true potential. By midday, they had uncovered something significant. The weapon wasn't just a tool of destruction, it was also a disruptor, capable of disabling enemy technology on a massive scale. "This changes everything," one of the scientists murmured, staring at the results. "If we can harness this, it could turn the tide of the war." Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of cautious optimism. But before they could celebrate, General Hayes entered the lab, his presence commanding immediate attention. His face was grim, his jaw clenched tightly. "We've got trouble," he announced without preamble. "The Conquered Alliance has launched coordinated attacks on 3 more colonies. Casualties are high and reinforcements are stretched thin. We need solutions now." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the news. Ethan exchanged a glance with Maya, who looked equally troubled. They had known the situation was dire, but hearing the extent of the devastation hit hard. "What do you need from us?" Ethan asked, stepping forward. Hayes fixed him with a piercing stare. "You said this weapon could disable enemy tech. Can you adapt it for use against their fleets?" Ethan hesitated, weighing the question carefully. "It's possible, but it'll take time, and we'll need field testing to ensure it works under combat conditions." "Time is something we don't have," Hayes replied sharply. "But I might have a solution." He turned to address the entire team. "Captain Ryan Bennett and his Special Ops unit specialize in unconventional tactics. If anyone can deploy this weapon effectively, it's them. You'll work directly with them moving forward." Later that afternoon, Ethan and Maya met Captain Ryan Bennett and his team in a secure briefing room. Bennett was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a no-nonsense demeanor. His sharp eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail. Beside him stood Laura Kim, a tech specialist with a quiet intensity, and Jake Monroe, a demolitions expert whose easygoing smile belied his deadly skills. Bennett wasted no time getting to the point. "General Hayes says you've got something. That could give us an edge. Let's hear it." Ethan explained the weapon's capabilities, using holograms to illustrate how it disrupted alien technology. "We believe it can neutralize their ship's shields and propulsion systems, leaving them vulnerable to attack. But we haven't tested it outside controlled environments." Bennett nodded thoughtfully. "Sounds risky, but desperate times call for desperate measures. How soon can you prep it for deployment?" 2 days, Ethan replied. "Maybe less if we push hard." "Good," Bennett said, "because we're hitting them tonight." That evening, Ethan and Maya accompanied Bennett's team to a staging area aboard a heavily armed transport ship. The plan was simple yet daring: infiltrate a conquered supply convoy, deploy the weapon, and retreat before enemy reinforcements arrived. It was a gamble, but with humanity's colonies under siege, they had little choice. As the ship approached the target zone, tension filled the air. Ethan double-checked the weapon settings, ensuring everything was ready. Maya stayed close, offering quiet reassurance. "You've done all you can," she said softly. "Now it's up to them." When the transport docked near the convoy, Bennett led the charge. The team moved swiftly and silently, avoiding detection as they planted the weapon aboard one of the alien ships. Ethan monitored the device remotely, guiding the team through the final stages of activation. "Stand by," he whispered into the comms. "Initiating sequence, now." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a pulse of energy rippled outward, invisible but potent. Alien ships shuddered and stalled, their systems failing en masse. Cheers erupted over the comms as Bennett's team executed a flawless retreat. Back aboard the transport, the mood was jubilant. Ethan slumped into a seat, exhaustion washing over him. "It worked," he murmured, almost unable to believe it himself. Maya grinned, clapping him on the back. "Told you not to doubt yourself." The success of the mission spread quickly, boosting morale across Earth's forces. News feeds hailed the operation as a turning point in the war, crediting Ethan's ingenuity and Bennett's tactical brilliance. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered in the hearts of humanity. But amidst the celebration, Ethan couldn't shake a nagging unease. The weapon had proven effective, yes, but it was only a single victory in a much larger conflict. The Conquered Alliance wouldn't stop coming, and sooner or later they would adapt. As the transport returned to the orbital station, Ethan gazed out at the stars, lost in thought. Humanity had unleashed chaos upon the galaxy, earning both admiration and enmity. Now, with the weapon's power revealed, the stakes had grown even higher. Whatever came next, Ethan knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The victory against the Concord Alliance's supply convoy was a much-needed boost for humanity. News of the operation spread across Earth and its colonies like wildfire, igniting hope among civilians and soldiers alike. For the first time in months, people dared to believe that humanity might actually stand a chance against the overwhelming forces arrayed against them. Ethan Cole found himself thrust into the spotlight, hailed as a hero for his role in developing the alien weapon. But despite the praise, he couldn't shake the feeling that their triumph was fragile. A fleeting moment of light in an otherwise dark and chaotic war. Back at the orbital station, life had become a blur of activity. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel worked around the clock to replicate and refine the weapon's technology. Ethan spent most of his time in the lab, poring over data and running simulations. Every new discovery brought both excitement and anxiety. He knew they were racing against time. The Conquered wouldn't stay quiet for long. They would regroup, adapt, and strike back harder than before. Maya Rivera stayed close by, offering support whenever she could. She wasn't a scientist or a strategist, but her presence kept Ethan grounded. When he grew frustrated or overwhelmed, she reminded him to take breaks and breathe. "You're not going to save the galaxy if you burn out," she'd say with a wry smile. Though she teased him often, her words carried weight. Maya understood the toll this mission was taking, not just on Ethan, but on everyone involved. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Bennett and his team became celebrities within Earth's military circles. Their daring raid on the Conquered convoy proved that unconventional tactics could yield extraordinary results. General Carter Hayes held them up as examples of what humanity needed to survive: courage, ingenuity, and teamwork. Yet behind closed doors, tensions simmered between Hayes and Bennett. The general favored cautious defensive strategies while Bennett pushed for aggressive action. Their disagreements came to a head during a high-level briefing. "We can't keep playing it safe," Bennett argued, slamming his fist on the table. Every day we delay is another colony lost. We need to hit them where it hurts, take the fight to their homeworlds. Hayes leaned forward, his voice low but firm. And risk everything on reckless gambles? Humanity's survival depends on careful planning, not suicide missions. We don't even know how many ships they have, let alone whether we can match their firepower. Bennett clenched his jaw, clearly struggling to maintain his composure. With respect, sir, your careful planning has gotten us nowhere. If we don't act decisively now, there won't be anything left to defend. Ethan listened silently, torn between the two perspectives. On one hand, he agreed with Hayes. The stakes were too high to gamble recklessly. On the other hand, Bennett's urgency resonated with him. Time was running out, and hesitation only gave the enemy more opportunities to strike. Before the argument could escalate further, Laura Kim interjected. "What about diplomacy?" she suggested quietly. "Maybe we can negotiate a ceasefire, or at least buy ourselves some breathing room." Jake Monroe snorted. "Diplomacy with those bastards? They've been slaughtering us since day one. Why would they listen now?" Laura shot him a sharp look. "Because they're scared. That weapon proved we're not just sitting ducks anymore. Maybe they'll see reason if we show strength and restraint." The room fell silent as everyone considered her words. Hayes rubbed his temples, clearly conflicted. Finally, he sighed. "It's worth exploring. But I won't put all our eggs in one basket. Ethan, keep working on scaling up the weapon. Captain, prepare your team for another strike. If diplomacy fails, we'll need every advantage we can get." As days turned into weeks, rumors began circulating about secret negotiations with factions within the Conquered Alliance. Some claimed Earth's leaders were willing to surrender, trading territory for peace. Others insisted humanity's counterattacks had forced the aliens to reconsider their aggression. No one knew for sure, but the uncertainty bred mistrust. Soldiers whispered about betrayal, while civilians grew restless, demanding answers from their government. Ethan noticed the growing unease among his colleagues. Conversations in the lab took on a darker tone, filled with speculation and fear. One evening, as he reviewed the latest test results, Maya approached him with a troubled expression. "Something's off," she said bluntly. "I've been hearing things, rumors about Earth cutting deals behind our backs." Ethan frowned. "Cutting deals? With who?" She shrugged. "No one knows for sure, but it feels like someone's selling us out." Ethan wanted to dismiss her concerns, but deep down, he shared them. Too many questions remained unanswered. Why hadn't Earth launched a full-scale offensive after the success of the convoy raid? Why were resources being diverted away from weapon development? And why did General Hayes seem so reluctant to push forward? Determined to find answers, Ethan decided to dig deeper. Using his access credentials, he sifted through classified communications logs, searching for clues. What he discovered shocked him. Hidden beneath layers of encryption were messages revealing a faction within Earth's government, advocating for surrender. These individuals believed humanity couldn't win outright, and argued that capitulation was the only way to preserve what remained of their species. Ethan felt sick as he read the transcripts. Betrayal burned in his chest like acid. How could anyone think giving up was the right choice? After everything they'd sacrificed, after all the lives lost. How could they throw it all away? He confronted Hayes the next day, storming into the general's office without waiting for permission. "What's going on?" Ethan demanded, slamming a datapad onto the desk. "Why are you negotiating with the enemy?" Hayes looked up, his expression unreadable. "Calm down, son. Sit." "No," Ethan snapped. "You owe us the truth. My team has been busting their asses trying to give humanity a fighting chance, and now I find out you're talking about surrendering? Do you have any idea how many people are counting on us?" Hayes stood slowly, his voice calm but firm. "I understand your anger, Ethan. Believe me, I do. But you're looking at this through a narrow lens. War isn't just about winning battles. It's about preserving the future. If we push too hard, too fast, we risk losing everything. Sometimes compromise is the only path forward." "Compromise?" Ethan echoed, incredulous. "They're killing us. How is rolling over and handing them our colonies supposed to fix anything? It's not about rolling over, Hayes countered. It's about buying time, securing a foothold so we can rebuild and prepare for whatever comes next. Trust me, I don't like it either. But unless you have a better plan, this is the best option we've got. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. As much as he hated to admit it, Hayes had a point. Humanity was outnumbered and outgunned. Even with the weapon, they couldn't guarantee total victory. Still, the thought of surrendering sat wrong with him. There had to be another way. That night, Ethan met with Maya, Bennett, and the rest of the Special Ops team in a secluded corner of the station. He shared what he'd learned, watching their faces darken with anger and disbelief. "We can't. Let them do this," Bennett growled. "If they surrender, it's over. We lose everything." "So what do we do?" Jake asked, cracking his knuckles. "Stage a coup?" "No," Ethan replied firmly. "But we can't sit back and wait for orders either. We need to take matters into our own hands. If we can activate the original weapon, the one buried in the asteroid, we might be able to end this once and for all." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You mean go rogue? Disobey direct orders?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "If it means saving humanity, yes. Are you with me?" One by one, the others agreed. They knew the risks, but they also knew the alternative was unthinkable. Together, they began planning their next move, a desperate gamble that could either save humanity or doom it forever. As they finalized their strategy, Ethan gazed out at the stars, his heart heavy with resolve. The galaxy was vast and unforgiving, but humanity had always thrived in the face of adversity. Whatever happened next, they would face it together,